All right, so I'll call our meeting to order. Let's do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And then roll call. Lori, Leo. Nathan. My language. Elizabeth Ricketson. And on the phone, I'm on the Zoom meeting, we have Jake. Okay. All right, approval of our agenda. Does anybody have any adds or subtractions on the agenda? Yeah, all in favor? Yo, you had, what would you like to?
I might, but I haven't looked this over closely, so something might come up that just works in like that, but I'd like to propose a public-private partnership for a concrete plant, batch plant somewhere close to town, as concrete cost has gone very high. And you know, the finances is something to look at, possibly to share profits with the village.
Mhm.
So that's my
So-
idea.
Jake, do you think that's like a good topic for workforce housing, or is it more of an appropriate for the council meeting? I mean, I'd be happy to hear what you're saying, but I just want to make sure we get it on the right meeting.
I'm not sure which subcommittee it would go best under. My understanding is the batch plant just north of town was for sale. I don't know. And that I'd heard that a month or two ago, so I don't know the current status of it. There are municipalities, Riadosa is a good example, that own and operate their own asphalt plants. I don't know about concrete. I think it's probably a better question put to a council meeting, just because it wouldn't necessarily be workforce housing or parks and rec, but all of those committees would at some point need to interface with concrete.
Yeah.
So the ability for the Village of Angel Fire to self-perform more work like that makes sense, but does anyone know the current status of the batch plant near us now?
I did inquire and hear about that last year. And from my understanding, that equipment was fairly outdated. So I haven't looked at it firsthand, but that's my impression as of right now.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we? I mean, we can give a slot that you can kind of tell us a little bit about your proposal, but it's not anything that our committee would,
Well, and unfortunately, I can't think, there's not like a specific committee that it would best slot into. I think just
yeah,
the next council meeting is on the, it's next Tuesday. So
Okay.
what is that, the 13th? So that might be a good place. Anyone can come and sign up to make public comment.
yeah.
So maybe just not trying to push you aside, but that's probably the better venue for it.
It's a better time anyway. I'm just exposing the idea right now. I don't have any detailed information to offer. It's just a general idea as of right now.
Okay, okay. Okay, so, so I guess I don't have, do we have an action item out of that for us, or is that you just saying put it on the?
I don't think so. I would just recommend, let's have that exact same comment happen a week from tomorrow at the council meeting. And like I said, anyone can sign up. Just make sure you catch the sheet on the way in. Rocky can show you where he puts it before meetings.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so at the end, if you want to kind of share a little bit about your proposal, and that'd be fine. Okay,
Thank you.
okay. All right, so update on the employer survey. I'll tell you what, I know Matt was unable to come. So we're still waiting, as far as I know, from on the village to get the new email address set up. And so that the surveys come from, looks like it's coming from the village. Now, what I didn't know was when we talked about when we initially put the game plan together for how to, for the employer survey, we just need this, I'm sorry, because it is going to come from the village. And they want it to look like it's coming from the village and not from me or Matt or Jay. So until we get that email set up, we're still on hold. I find it very unfortunate. I mean, if it were me, I would be on the phone and say, I will just sit here and wait on the phone with you until you do it. I know sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but I wish somebody would do that from the village and get it done. So that's my.
So I can give you're 100% correct on all that information. Manager Weir is aware of this problem. He has another committee that is stuck on this same issue of needing an email. Mayor Lindsay is aware of it. It is definitely coloring our opinion of our current IT provider and their ability to respond or not respond. So unfortunately, we've already decided housing at angelfireandam.gov is going to be the email address, but
Right.
we are just dead in the water. We can't send these things out. I don't think that should influence you all on. I see no reason to slow you guys down on recommending the employee survey go ahead and go to council. If
Right.
anything, it's just going to show that, hey, this workload is stacking up, waiting on IT to get motivated or whatever it's going to take.
So this agenda I'm noticing does not have the vote on the employee survey. Or did we vote on that already? Oh, we voted on that already,
So
okay.
it's one council.
Right, you're right, we did, sorry. So we're,
Yeah.
okay, so we already voted on that last thing. The only reason we didn't vote on the governance, because there were some minor changes to it, that's right, okay. Okay, well, you know, if there's anybody who can sit on the phone for an hour, walk into the IT provider's office and sit there, that would be great, because I know that I just hate that, I mean, manager, the original goal was to get this done by May 18th. And it's August the something or another.
Yeah.
So if we can do that, I don't know how we get that done, but if we can. Okay, at any rate, we're just waiting on that. And it's all ready to go. It's been tested, everything. So I'll give also, while we're talking about surveys, I'll just give a quick update. I don't know if everybody saw my email about the employee one, but Matt loaded that today as the test. The questions and everything, we've already voted to send to council.
Right.
But when we loaded into test, there's a few things that needed to be updated with the way you answer the questions. Anybody else try it or?
I saw the email, I haven't had a chance to.
I started. I could open it.
I'm sorry, Bert.
I don't think I got it where I could open it. I saw your comments.
We should, well, if you're not able to open it, let Matt know, reply to him as well. But,
Okay.
it's, we just have to be able to, when they get their answers back, like, for example, question number 1 just gives you a number. Well, that number, does that represent 7 years, 7 months, 7 days, so we kind of need to know,
Yeah.
so anyway, I sent those to him, but he was, he had his parent teacher conference tonight, so I'm sure we'll get that going here pretty soon, so.
Okay.
So if they want it to be from them, do we have to change the employer survey letter because it's signed by you?
No, I mean, that's a question for Jake, but that letter was approved by the council. It's just that they want the email to look like it's coming from us.
That's correct.
Okay,
Okay.
so, and then as far as the employee, he had an email, he was gonna kind of do the same email. I'm just trying to remember for the employee survey. Was there an intention to send it out via email? I'm trying to remember. I know we were gonna create a flyer, we're gonna create a QR code.
Right.
Maybe we did talk about forwarding it to employers and asking them to send it to their employees.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So the letter, I mean, I was fine with the letter. If anybody had any comments on that, just send them to Matt. And we'll work on that next time, so. Okay. Anything else on employee surveys? No, okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is to vote to send the workforce housing governance to council. So we talked about this last time, and I think we had one minor change that I made and sent, I can't remember what it was, but we made one small change. And I sent that via email, so we said we were going to vote on it. So did anybody have any questions, comments?
No,
I have
we-
one comment,
Okay.
in general, and I don't know if Rocky's still in the room, but
Yeah.
there is a new, form that Rocky has for all, committees to use anytime we're gonna elevate something to council.
Okay,
I can get a copy of it to you all. If Rocky's got a copy of it, there, you can show it. Basically, it's just here is what the committee is going to recommend go to council. And then here is the attachments of any documents that Rocky needs to make sure that all council members get. So,
Okay.
just whatever we do on this issue and the next, anything that we're gonna elevate at council, which for this meeting is gonna be three things, right? Well, for the council meeting next week, one will be the employee survey, sending it to council for approval. Second will be the governance document, this agenda item, and third will be any recommendations for property purchase. So if we can just make sure that there's a form that gets filled out to get it on the council agenda.
okay, all right.
Email it to you?
Yes, just email it to me, that's fine. Me and Meg will take care of it.
Do you have a copy of the ADD village document,
What are you talking about?
the reference? in the-
No, I don't. That will just be added. So basically, I mean, we're creating this document, but what they'll do is they'll take this and they'll put it as an ordinance. And so when they do the ordinance, they can add that reference number. Do you agree with that, Jake? So this is kind of like our draft, and then the final will become part of the ordinance.
That's correct. The process will be, so the form will get filled out for Rocky. All the documents will go to the village manager. The village manager will take the action of deciding, okay, is this ready to go to council? Does it need to go to the lawyer first, or does it need to go to a council work session? So it's just a sorting mechanism. So we make sure we have the ask of the committees, all the associated documents, and what the next step in the process is gonna be.
Oh, and I'm sorry, ADD is meant to be the word add, not an ever. When you said that, I was like, wait a minute. So I just have it, I don't know why I have it capitalized, but that's what that's meant to be. Yeah, so we'll add that, yeah, so, I think the one thing I did add that we did talk about was the special use exemptions. That's what I added. Where we talked about, we may use one of the workforce housing units to staff a healthcare facility.
Oh,
or Okay, all right, so are we all? So let's vote on, let's have a motion to vote on sending the governance council.
I motion to send it on.
Okay, and I'll second. And then all in favor? Anybody opposed?
No.
All right. All right, so we will follow the process to get this added to the council along with the employee survey and the property discussion. Okay, so next up is the discussion and vote to recommend property to council. So everybody got the email from Jake, right? And did everybody respond with your recommendations? So do you want?
I only got two, unfortunately. I
I
got,
didn't know I was supposed to respond. I thought I was.
Got to the thing and I did.
so I got a response from Maya and I got a response from Elizabeth, and I have a 1-to-1. One was in favor of one property and one was in favor of the other property. So, unfortunately, realistically, you guys would have to vote on this to elevate it to council. Obviously, it's an agenda item, so you can have that discussion now. But
Okay.
sending a 1-to-1 versus 1 vote to council would not be my recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so why don't we do this? Why don't we spend a few minutes talking about the property behind Zeb's, and then we'll spend a few minutes talking about the property behind the property on Highway 64. So is everybody familiar with the property behind Zeb's? You know which one we're talking about?
Is it next to it or behind it?
So it's like this, it's like Zeb's is here. And then you see, go ahead.
I could probably pull up the listings if you guys can see my
Yeah.
screen. So if you want me to do that, give me just a minute and
Okay.
I will
In the meantime-
pull them up.
Okay, in the meantime, I'll explain. Okay, so Zeb sits here and then there's like a gate here and there's a for sale sign there that says, commercial property. So this is like, I don't know if this is just easement to the property, but this is access to the property. And then there's these acreage behind. it's total 5 acres or 4.9 something. So it'd be behind us, so they would come in, so there would be a spot to come in from the highway. And then the person who has the listing had it proposed that it was big enough to put like 3 rows of apartments on, you know, or townhouses or whatever.
Right.
So that's the property there. So it does not extend. Next to it is one of the hardware stores, I forget which one, next to it is one of the hardware stores.
Both.
Yeah,
Can you all see the screen here?
No, Alpine.
yeah, but you have to
Is this it?
click on the picture.
Yep,
This is-
so.
Yeah. It's 434 here.
That
Here.
helps.
Right there.
Okay, so yeah, that's Alpine. And
Yeah.
Chadalia would be there.
Yeah, this picture is.
It's,
Good
you
Lord,
have to
let's see.
rotate it, cause the 434 is on the far right. So, and so that L.
So yeah,
Zeb's-
434 is here.
Right, Zeb's is in the
There
big
is an
white space.
easement. There's a strip of land between Zeb's and Alpine to get to this acreage behind.
Right, right.
And
So-
just because I have it pulled up, this is 280,000 is the asking price, and it is 4.25 acres.
Right, okay,
Oh, it's 4.25.
yeah,
And then
so,
I can pull up the other one here too, if you'd like.
okay.
Is that negotiable?
Well, I'm sure
So
it-
yeah, these are just the MLS listings.
Right.
Understand that for the purchase of real property, those negotiations would happen in executive session. But yes, we would, in theory, go out to both of these properties and ask, you know, what their bottom line is, that sort of thing. So this is a picture of the other property out by 64. If
From
you
the back.
see, yep, from the back, if you see, this is Freya Lane, which comes off of 434 and then turns north to hit 64. So it's
Yeah.
essentially this 5.05. Here's 5.05 acres right here. So it is right next to across the street from the DOT lot.
Oh,
Right.
across the street.
You know where, you know, the lot where
Yeah,
the
with
Fisher's
the-
working, so that is gonna be to the east of the lot. And then to the west of the lot, do you know where Mike Maloney is? Okay, his house is there, where he's building a garage to the west of the lot. So,
So it's behind, okay, so it'd be closer this way. Like if you came in from 64, you'd go past Malone's and,
no, you'd go past the DOT lot,
okay,
it's before the RV, that, you know, past the DOT lot. And there's a blank space there. And then there's Malone's house, and then later further is the RV park, so, okay. All right, so let's talk about the one behind Zeb's first. Maya, do you wanna share your thoughts on the one behind Zeb's?
I think my only reasons I like that is just because it's closer to everything in town. And easier
yeah,
to
walkable.
walk around,
Mhm.
get to the laundromat.
Okay.
Grocery store.
I didn't get my response in, but I had the same reaction. I like it. I mean, I was a little bit smaller, but it's closer
Mhm.
and, you know, I think that's a plus.
Okay,
That's me too, because the winds in the winter, you're gonna be up on 64 trying to get to work if you're walking.
mhm. So that, I had the same thought, and the other thoughts I had was that, you know, it's kind of hidden from the highway, so you don't have, so there's some space there, you know, to be kind of, not that I wanna hide the houses, but just for the occupants, kind of be hidden from the highway.
Yeah.
I can't remember all the negatives I said, I didn't really have a lot of negatives for it, but one thing I did think about was that it's probably considered prime property for the future.
Yeah.
And so I know Jake mentioned before that, you know, we can put these houses there, and if we need to move them later, we can move them, right? And so I was just thinking, okay, probably for infrastructure, it's cheaper because it might be closer, I'm assuming, to the infrastructure to put there in terms of like the sewer and the water. But if you knew that you were gonna have to move those later, I wasn't really crazy about that. So
So,
I do the walkability.
If I could
Sure.
pause you for just a second. Director Epler has puts his input on the infrastructure cost. So
Mhm.
that there's gonna be a multitude of things that council considers when we go out to actually purchase one of these. The purchase price, the size, the drifting issues, and the utilities. I think we have input from other employees and committees that are gonna give that. So I think for workforce housing, I don't necessarily need you guys to consider all those. Somebody else is gonna come in and plug a number in for that. So
Sure.
if I think for workforce housing, which one of these do you think is a better site for workforce housing is really all we're trying to assess here.
Zeb's.
I think in both cases, because these are, you know, mobile units that we're putting on them, modular HUD sort of whatever we're gonna call them. If
Mhm.
either piece of land 20 years down the road, the village decides, hey, there's other properties, we don't need these units as workforce housing anymore, we could sell the units off and move
Mhm.
them simply down the road to mobile home states to be sold and occupied by someone there.
Sure,
So
okay.
the cost of utilities is different, and I'll tell you, the Zeb's lot is slightly more to get
Okay.
utilities to, because we have to get to the back side of the Zeb's lot. Whereas the lot on 64 has electric overhead and manhole water and sewer water access immediately on 2 of its corners. So technically
Okay.
it is the better access lot for utilities.
Okay, so I didn't rate walkability maybe as high as you guys did, because I feel like most people are gonna have a vehicle of some sort. It is nice to be, if you wanna walk to town, you could, but it wasn't as big a factor, I thought, for me, because both of them essentially are walkable in the summer, maybe not in the winter, but anyway, the other thought I had, let me remember, oh, it is, the cost of the lot is higher. The thought I had about the property out on the highway is if you go out there and look at it, the houses around it are similar in nature. They are double wide, they're, so it's not like it's gonna be, I think you would get less pushback from the community on that one than you will on the one behind Zeb's.
Is that where
And it's
the other
bigger.
developers planning to build right there too?
No, they're trying to build, where the corner is, blinking light, and there's kind of like those properties on either side of, the Remax office. So that, and then the other thing I thought about the property out on the, highway is that the DOT property could be, eventually is gonna come back up for sale. I think they have a 2-year contract to use that, and then I think I don't know if they're just leasing it from the village, or if they bought it and then they plan to sell it, I'm not sure. But their permit is for 2 years, and so that was another consideration, was that if we wanted to add more housing in the future, that could be just an extension of the same area. And then the last thought I had about the property out there is, and I pointed this out to Jake, was we've got to keep in mind that these are this is gonna be their homes, right? And so when I was growing up, I lived in many apartments. And I really think that we should try to not make it look like barracks, not make it look like those hunting cabins in Eagle Nest, on the east side of Eagle Nest.
Sure.
It needs to look like a place that people are happy to live in and happy to be at home at. So I want some public space for it doesn't have to be fancy, a little playground that you could put up, kids could go and play kickball in, or a swing set, or a few picnic tables, So I think the other property kind of lends itself to have that more with more houses, but those are my thoughts. That's why I voted for the other one. But sounds like you guys really feel like the Zeb's one is more appropriate, and so whatever we want to recommend, I'm good with. So,
Well, I would ask, I guess, if there's any more discussion, continue. Otherwise, if this ends up in a 3-1 vote, that's fine. If it ends up in a 2-2 vote, not great, but I would go ahead and do it as a roll call vote and recommend whatever the outcome of that vote is to council.
Okay,
Can I ask one other?
sure, please.
Is this the lot that you mentioned that there's gonna be a lot of problems with snow drifts and that it has access through other properties through it or something?
So neither of them would have issues with access where they both have direct road access. You wouldn't need an easement to get to either property. Director Epler's feedback is, quite frankly, both lots will likely need some type of snowdrift fencing because we don't want to put 60 workforce housing units in a place where, hey, everyone that works in town is going to live here. And now every time it snows, they don't get plowed out right away. So I think the opinion was because of 64, the wind out there is a little worse where that is, that the drifting issue is probably worse at the 64 lot than the Zeb's lot, but neither is free and clear of the drifting issue.
Will the transportation buses in the winter go out to that?
Currently, the shuttle buses you're talking about that the resort runs, I don't think they go out to the 64 area. I think they go by the post office. I think it's kind of the end of their route. So for now, that would be one tick to the Zeb's lot, as you already have a shuttle bus going by there.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know like in the I was thinking in the summertime, they might do an RV, you would know. Do they have a shuttle bus at RV? No? Okay, okay. All right. Any other thoughts about the lots? No?
Have they discussed it with the other people that have houses out there?
No, and that, I mean, I wonder, is that something that has to be done or no?
So we have not, because we don't own either lot. If we purchase both lots, necessarily those will have to be council items. And so in the case of either lot, people would be able to come and give public comment on their thoughts before a transaction actually happens. So we're just at the recommendation stage. We would still have to go through the real estate side, the public announcement side, public comment side. All of that is still on the table for both lots.
Mhm. And I don't know if this would be applicable to these two lots because they're zoned commercial, so. But I was thinking that when the P and Z committee, when you're planning something, I guess that was only for a variance. When you're planning something that's a variance from what the lot is zoned, they have to notify everybody within like 200 feet or something like that to let them to have public comment. So I don't know if that would be, if a process
No.
would be similar for that one.
Both of these lots are already zoned at our highest density level, which is R20. So there would be
Okay.
no zoning modification needed on either lot.
Okay.
Now, the one does it back up to the one we were previously looking at with the building that got too expensive to renovate?
No,
It does not attach to that lot, no.
so it's, now that was another thought I had out there, is that behind the south, behind the whatever hardware store is to the north of Zeb's.
Alpine.
Alpine. There is a big chunk of land behind there. I don't know who owns it, but that is between it and that property. So, who knows, that could be owned by that hardware store, it could be owned by somebody else,
Could be on
you
the
know,
app.
but yeah, it could be owned by, I don't know who it's owned by. But anyway, that there is a big space, because I did look at that as a potential, could it
Yeah.
join, just like I did at the other one, so. Okay. Other thoughts? I wish Matt and Jake were here, but we can go ahead and vote. We have a quorum, so. So first, let's open the motion. Do we want to vote tonight to make a recommendation, I guess is what would be my first question.
Will they need us to vote?
So this staff report is going to be the first of we're elevating something like this to council. I think we would like your input and your vote on this.
Okay.
That is the form that Rocky's going to have you fill out, is it's going to have the staff recommendation and accompanying documents. So yes,
Okay.
we would ultimately like this committee to give an opinion on which of these two lots is preferable. A large chunk of that is because they're very similar. I mean, they're both around 5 acres. They're both around the same price. They have some similar issues and challenges. So that's what committees are for, is helping kind of have some of these tie-breaking issues and get us moving forward.
Okay. All right, well, then let's go ahead and just do a roll call vote then, so. So. Lori, how would you like to vote?
I think I'm still for Zeb's.
Okay. Meg?
I think I prefer the free M 64 loan.
Okay,
Zips.
those, and I'm on the Bria.
Oh.
So we're gonna be, so I don't know what to do.
Since it's a tie, can I give cause I went out to the lot myself personally to look at it before I knew that it was even gonna come up at the meeting here. And I was thinking about buying it
Which
and the one behind Zeb's.
Okay,
And I can't buy it at this moment, but I was thinking it would be nice to buy it and put workforce housing on it. I was gonna work on putting workforce housing on it for my business. And then I was thinking about in the future buying Zeb's and renovating Zeb's and turning it into something a little bit better.
Well, you don't get a
So-
vote. unfortunately, 'cause
No,
you're
I
on the
know.
committee.
I
So,
know.
so let's do this. We obviously have a tie vote, which is fine. We can recommend that to council, but I would go ahead and on the form, basically fill out, it was a tie vote. Both of these are, we have 2 for one and 2 for the other, and maybe put the bullet points of, the top 2 reasons why Zeb's or the top 2 reasons why 64, and let
Okay.
council then decide because what may happen here is this is gonna allow us to get a little more engaged with actually buying these, and maybe one of them ends up more
Mhm.
interested in doing a deal than the other, that one's, cheaper, and that is the deciding factor.
Okay.
now who sent in their votes? Was it somebody not here?
No.
No,
was
the
us.
only 2 votes I have were from Maya and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, just checking.
So, okay, so let's then discuss real quick. We'll do that. The top 2 points for Zeb's. For those of you who voted for Zeb's.
Accessibility.
Okay, so the
Accessible location.
Quest the town,
It's
accessibility.
location.
Okay, and what else? That's number 1.
Well, it is off the road, so it's not right on the road.
Mhm.
Like you said,
Yeah.
Zeb's is in front of it.
That's a good reason.
Mhm.
It has a good access.
I do wanna add.
So I think those are your 2 best, walkable, and it's hidden behind a commercial structure that
Okay,
works.
okay. And then
it-
I would.
it- And then I would do the top 2 for the 64 lot.
The 64 lot.
Space.
I would say the space, yeah,
Nice, and
and,
it's the lower price.
well, it's not even necessarily the price, but I would, I think it has that ability for more units and common area,
Mhm.
so.
And it blends
How
to
many
the
more units,
neighborhood.
Well, it's 5 acres versus 4.25 acres, and I wonder how much of that, the 4.25 acres, is it that include that easement or no, would be the question,
I think it does. The other thing with the 64 lot is there is a very large right of way on the 64 lot, that there's not all
Okay.
5 of that acres is gonna be buildable because of the need for
That's what I
fencing.
thought I understood.
Okay,
Can you pull that up on your
So
screen,
what
the
if- so-
property on 64?
yeah. So I still think it's a larger lot. What, did you wanna say something?
I just wanted to comment, when the Zeb's lot came up and there was the proposed housing, maybe by the realtor. To me, that looked not feasible, cause it looked like he had put housing out to the road. And the pathway between Zeb's and the hardware store is really tight to put 2 rows of housing down that. And from the map, the drawing, it looked like that's what he had. So I just wanted to make that comment that what the realtor proposed looked not feasible.
Can you guys see this map?
Mhm.
Yeah,
So this is the 64 lot. It actually doesn't go all the way to Fuchs Lane. It cuts off about here, and there's a little bit of it down here. But along 64, there is a 50-foot easement,
Okay.
a right of way there, and it is not necessarily measured from the asphalt, that there is it's gonna come back in, you know, you're gonna lose probably to here,
So the
but
dark
this strip
part-
up here is not gonna be buildable.
The dark roof, that is, that's
Maloney.
Maloney, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so, all right, so I mean, if I were picking one, I would say, I would say the larger space and the fact that the development will kind of fits in with the surrounding area. But,
but the,
Meg, what
but
do
the
you think?
negative side is that there are private homes there and there aren't private homes by Zibs.
Yeah, that's true.
No,
What-
those
Well-
were exactly my thoughts.
So if I could, I mean, let's just focus on, we've already had a vote. It was a roll call vote, so let's just get to the two pros of each, and we will recommend, we'll send that staff report along to council. And let them chew on it.
Okay.
So I would say the development will be similar to the surrounding homes.
Mm.
And then I still feel like it's a larger space that to allow for common area. Anything else? Anybody?
Those are top two. so,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, that's good.
I think we've got the top two for each.
Okay, and then closer to town, walkability and accessibility for Zebs and slightly off the highway, so it's hidden behind.
Commercial structure.
Yeah, commercial structure.
I
yeah.
think is it fair to say that for those of you that voted, if it ends up being the other lot, is that a bad thing? I don't know that either of these are bad options. It's just, we don't have a clear-cut winner.
Right.
I think we're just expressing preference, but not
Right.
saying I'm opposed to the
Right,
other.
I'm not opposed to either one, I'm fine with
Right.
either one, yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah. And, you know, it's not a plus thing, but I do think that, I think village, there'll be a subset of people, just like we had some people complaining about things being by their business.
Mhm.
We'll have a subset of people come and they will complain about the housing being in town versus out in the, and then we'll have some that come and complain about it out there, so it's just, you know. I think that we'll have less complainers out there, but you just never know. And so, but I don't think we should point that out, that's, if those people wanna come complain, that will be their choice to come complain or to vote for it or against it, so, not my choice, so.
Some of the people might work with Mike, so they'd be close to him
Makes
and
sense.
maybe he might hire them.
Yeah. Okay, all right, so we're just gonna fill out this sheet. Explain that it was a tie, we'll put these top two things and then we'll see. And then we'll and then all the other factors that matter from all the different committees. And, you know, the input that gives the village something to work with, so. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So it is 6:13. Anything, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, we need to talk about our next meeting. Do you wanna hear?
Yeah, we better get that out of the way first before we do that. So I don't know what we have to do for our next meeting right now, because we've got governance, we're waiting on employee survey. I would say let's optimistically put results of the employee survey test on there.
Employer,
Employee, this is the
Okay.
test,
oh, test, okay.
yeah,
So
and we can.
if
Go
I
ahead.
could recommend, you know, maybe pick a day, a month out.
Yeah.
Obviously, unfortunately, many of the things you guys have worked on and voted to are stuck in a holding pattern with the village for one reason or another, so I don't want to keep bringing you guys back if there's not more work to be done. I do think there will be more work to do, but I don't see anything in the next couple of weeks popping up, so maybe talk amongst yourselves and decide if this is a before or after Labor Day for the next meeting, what makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, so I'll be here. The week of Labor Day as of right now, and I'll be here on the 9th, so. Whatever works, we may have some vacation going on Labor Day or,
Yeah, do we just wanna push it out to the 9th, and then if we have to do something sooner, we have emergency come up, we can always.
I
sure,
think
Okay.
that sounds good.
Okay.
yeah, that sounds good, because I've got,
Monday,
yeah,
September
that
9th.
gives me, okay. And then, at this
If-
point, go ahead.
If something comes up sooner, obviously I will let you know and we can schedule before then. It's just,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff we've got to get IT fixed and things situated before we need more work. I think all the paperwork you guys done is tremendous, the governance documents, the surveys, but those need to go into the next set of hands and get feedback from. So
Sure.
I think that's appropriate, but as opposed to asking you to do work on more things before we've gotten that feedback.
So let's put update on surveys, that
Okay.
way we can talk about the test and we can talk about the
And I'll
employer.
put it for the employee and employer.
Right. And then we'll get an update from the council stuff.
Yeah,
Like-
so we will have a meeting on the 13th. We will then have another meeting on the 27th. So that will be 2 rounds of council meetings potentially before your next meeting. So we should have several updates on all
Okay.
of this. Purchasing of
Okay.
real property. There's some background work with the vendor we're looking at with housing that will also need to get in front of council. So several items that we should have updates on by the time we all meet again.
Okay, and then I was just thinking, if I think back to our original things, we knew we had to do governance, we had to do I'm assuming this village will run the RFP, right? And then, but that won't be ready by this meeting, so I think just the updates from council and updates on the surveys and,
The other update we'll have, and I know Elizabeth and I talked about this, I should have brought it up earlier, but both people that applied for grant applications through MFA to our 3 counties were denied by MFA. The only 2 applications written. My understanding is the private developer is reworking their application, and we will as a Village of Angel Fire as well. There were some deficiencies that we couldn't control that we now can, like for instance, we just adopted our Q4, I believe it was, budget report. That was supposed to be something we submitted and we didn't have it. Well, now we have officially adopted it. So there's some problems with our application that can be rectified and we can reapply. So that
Okay.
is also still in limbo.
Okay.
okay. So that would be a good one maybe to, and let's get an update on the village's process, village of getting the ordinance adopted. Have they already done that? The housing. Okay.
Which, so it is going to legal, the MFA ordinance.
Okay, yes.
Yes, so that was tied up. We had a council meeting last week. We just voted to work with a new attorney. So there was like
Okay.
11 things that were all waiting to go to the attorney once we had a contract with them.
So let's put that on the agenda, update on the village's MFA ordinance. And then we can get update on grants. Grant applications, but, and then I guess one question I had for that, I'm not trying to eat up this time, I'm gonna give you a few
No,
more,
it's fine.
okay? Did we finally get the audit issues resolved so that we are able to get grants, cause it wasn't our audit not being completed,
So,
holding up some of the
uh,
grants?
Yeah, so there were 2 things holding up some grant writing, one of which is having late audits or findings in your audits. There
Okay.
were some findings in the audits that there's a plan to rectify all of those so that they're not concerned. The biggest thing that is holding us up from grant writing applications right now is we have excessive cash on hand, which I think we've talked about before. And we are trying to spend that quickly. Part of this is trying to, I think the list price on both of these properties were over $250,000. There's probably going to be another $250,000 of engineering, dirt work, infrastructure. So we have a plan to start spending that money, but it takes time to spend government money. It doesn't happen overnight.
Sure. And then I guess one other thing that we could add is maybe one of us can get with the visitor center director, the executive, who said he would put together our flyer. So one of us.
Yes.
On that.
So the tourism director, Greg Ralph, all he will really need, is the link. He will generate the QR code. Just the link to the employee survey was the only thing he would need from us.
But I think if he could get, like, maybe I'll just get him to drop a draft of what the flyer will look like. And
For sure.
then I'll go visit with him on that unless somebody else wants to volunteer to do that. I mean, I could do that. Or Lori, do you want to do it? No,
Not really.
Okay. I'm happy where you do it. No. Okay, I'll drop in. I am before the night. I'll see if I can visit with him before I leave next week, and then when I get back, I'll see if he's had a chance to put something together. So, and, then we can kind of review that as well. So, okay, all right.
Thank you for volunteering with me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of tied up for 2 weeks, but if it gets
Oh, that's
close
right,
to
we
the
did.
ninth, then maybe you do it. Tell me.
Okay, I will. Okay, now we have a guest who would like to tell us about his proposal.
Thank you.
So
My
you
name
have
is
to tell your name, yeah,
Adam Warshower,
okay,
and I have a New Mexico LLC design build firm that I started here. And last year I started to look into cost to build, and the concrete cost was one of the costs that was creeping up and up. Lumber was up and lumber came back down, but there's not a lot of concrete suppliers directly to Angel Fire. Medina is in Taos and they have to come up over the pass. It's kind of hard for them to do it. BTU has been supplying most of the concrete, as far as I understand, in the village. There is the one batch plant that's between here and Eagle Nest. Maybe it's in the Eagle Nest proper, I guess. That is for sale, but I heard that it was, not in the best shape. And so I did start this conversation last year, but I'm just bringing it up now. The possibility of either a public-private partnership to put a concrete batch plant closer to Angel Fire or in Angel Fire, or there would be the possibility of Angel Fire owning the batch plant outright and operating it at a profit to support the budget of the village. So that's an option for the village, just to own it totally outright. And we'd have to crunch all the numbers on that and look at the equipment. I started to look at concrete equipment today. And then there's also a lot of things you can do with concrete, so it could provide a lot of jobs locally, which would be good for people and for, for incomes, for jobs, for employment. So that's the basic idea of it. I don't have any formal proposal written up yet. I just kind of came in quick and just was like, all right, let's throw it out there. And then I can work on something before the next council meeting and have something more on paper with more concrete plans.
so, so I know there's the equipment, but isn't there's also like some specific, what do you wanna call it, raw materials that you have to
Correct.
have that maybe are not available would those have to be brought in, like
Yes.
limestone or whatever it is they use to make it harden or?
Sure. On a semi-regular basis, you'd have to bring in material based upon demand and usage. The village probably has projects coming up. I mean, I know there was the $1 million infrastructure that was underground and has not been utilized yet by the village. And if the village did own it outright or via a public-private partnership, then we would be able to control that cost rather than being stuck with Medina saying, well, we're gonna put it at $350 a yard now, or BTU putting it up. It's possible to look at that one in Eagle Nest and maybe even upgrade the equipment there. I don't know what they're asking for that, but yes, you definitely have to bring in material in order to, as demand requires.
And I was thinking, and I may be totally wrong, I think I was watching a show about concrete one time, and it was talking about that the number of concrete facilities that are regulated because of the limited raw material available. Maybe
Okay.
that was 5 years ago, I don't know, I just don't know enough about it, because, I mean, when we first moved here, we also talked about, oh, we should do a concrete plant. Of course, we won't do it because we don't want to work that hard, but anyway,
It's hard work.
yeah. But one of the things I was wondering about is, what is the viability of the regulations and allowing another concrete plant? Maybe
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll look into that
Okay.
before the next meeting.
So
Yeah,
do you
thanks for
have
bringing
to
that up.
quarry up, quarry?
There will be rock, on site, not, quarry, I mean, by definition, might be where they're pulling the rock out of the land. I'm not exactly sure about the true definition of what a quarry is, but we would need rock, crushed rock and other aggregates. And there's a really smart guy in Oklahoma who's a professor, and he's like he's like the most excited person about concrete I've ever seen in my life. He's online. I've watched a bunch of his videos.
Huh.
So I was thinking about going and meeting up with him and seeing if he would be interested in being a part of a project where we would have the concrete batch plant and then be working on other products and just, instead of just pouring concrete pads and footings and walls and everything like that, you can do other things with concrete. There's aircrete, which is a different material, and that could potentially be used in further workforce housing here or affordable housing at, less of a cost. Like if we own the plant, we're saving money
Yeah.
in the long run. You have to put in to buy the land and buy buy the equipment. But then we do probably generate money. That's the point of generating money after a certain break-even point.
And what is what college is the professor associated with?
Oklahoma,
State?
yeah, I'm not sure. I have to double check on that.
Okay.
But
That's what I was
Tyler,
wondering.
his name is Tyler something,
I
and
don't know.
well, if you just search online, like,
Okay.
Tyler Concrete, he's like, it'll probably pop up, and
Okay.
he's out there like being the most passionate concrete person I've ever seen.
They did build some 3D printer houses for homeless people in Austin.
No, it's not cool.
Yeah, the 3D printer houses are happening.
Mhm.
It's pretty amazing what's the new tech. Boxable is, another low cost housing opportunity. It sounds like the council's already honed in on one for this affordable housing, workforce housing, so.
Yeah, they're doing
so that's
lots of
good. That's good. Nice.
Okay, all
thank
right,
you,
well,
thank you.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, so is there any other business?
No.
All right, well then, meeting is adjourned. Thank you. All right, you sent us, you're gonna send us an email for that form,
I
Did Jake leave
I sent it
before I
already.
talked?
huh?
Did Jake leave before I spoke?
No, I think he's
Are we
still
still
there.
there? Oh, okay.
No, I was here. I was just muted. I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, cool. I just wanted to make sure you heard for the council meeting.